friends, welcome back to Faith and Arrow Homestead. My name is Jaylee and it is Tom's birthday, my handsome Tom, and so we are going to put a couple things together for him, and I thought I would bring you the recipes because they are just so very good. So for starters, what I've got everything set out for here, we are going to make his favorite birthday cake is actually a cookie cake, which I have never understood. Let me know down in the comments if you are team regular cake or team cookie cake. I am definitely team regular cake, but he likes cookie cake. And so I'm going to be making him a chocolate chip skillet cookie in my cast iron skillet, which is essentially a cookie cake. And we're gonna write happy birthday on it and everything. And I do have a recipe for this already up on this channel, but it is very, very, very old, back in the beginning videos. And so we're gonna go ahead and do it together because we are browning the butter. So this is a brown butter cast iron cookie cake. That's what I'm gonna call it. And I would like to teach you how to brown butter and then how to use the browned butter in a recipe. So that's what we're going to do today. So I've got my cast iron skillet here. It's nice and clean, and it is, I put a little lard in here to get it nice and non-stick. Hopefully you can see how nice that looks. There we go. We're gonna get this over on the stove, but first, this recipe calls for 11 tablespoons of butter, salted or unsalted, it doesn't matter. If you use salted, just reduce the amount of salt that we're gonna put in it later. I never worry too much about that. So here I have 8 tablespoons. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get this right in here. And then here are the other 3 to make 11. So we got 11 tablespoons of butter in here. And now we are going to take this over to the stove. It is a dreary day here today. It is 40 something degrees, 43, 44, and it is rainy and it is windy. So I have a fire going in the fireplace. And anytime I get the fireplace going, I try to get a simmer pot going because it helps get some moisture back in the air. The fireplace makes the air very dry. Sometimes Tom and I even get bloody noses. And so in here I have orange slices, orange peel, cinnamon sticks, cloves, all sorts of good stuff in here, and a little dash of vanilla, and it is simmering away and it smells so very good. So I'm definitely in the mood to do some cooking. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started on this. So I have got this on medium-low heat. This is not, browning the butter is not a process that we are going to rush through because you absolutely do not want to burn your butter when you are doing this because we are looking for a nice nutty caramelized flavor here, and if you go too quickly and turn the heat up too high, you may end up with a burnt flavor, and you don't want that. Also, this is the last bit of butter that I have in this house, so I can't risk ruining it. So we've got the heat on medium-low. We're just going to take our time with this, and so we're going to go ahead and get this melted. Okay, this is now going to start bubbling, and you're actually going to be able to hear this, and that is because at this point you are evaporating off the water. And I just like to keep my spoon, you got to stand right here while you're doing this process. I'm going to keep my spoon just kind of moving this around because as the water evaporates, the milk solids are going to separate and drop to the bottom of the pan. Those milk solids are what we are browning to get that nice nutty caramelized flavor, and you do not want them to burn. It'll ruin this batch of butter. So you really have to stand right here and keep it moving. Can you see how the color is kind of starting to change a little bit? And it's ultra bubbly right now. It's going to turn over here in just a moment. Now do you see how quiet it is? Listen. There's no noise. That means that the water has evaporated off and the milk solids are separated. So now at this point, you can start to smell it. And I'm getting that caramely nutty flavor, and it's at this point that this could go either way. If you were using a stainless steel pot or pan, you'd be able to see very clearly that the color has changed. Do you see that? When I pull the spoon through it, I'm going to turn the heat off because I do not want to risk burning this. This is all set. We have browned this butter, and I don't know how well you can see that on camera. But when you pull the spoon through it, you can see all of the milk solids hanging out on the bottom of the pan. Now this is my absolute favorite part of this process, and that is the part where we add in the sugar and the molasses and the vanilla. So here I have 1 cup of white granulated sugar. Go ahead and get that mixed in. And the reason that I enjoy this part so much is because when you start to mix the browned butter with the sugar and the vanilla and the molasses, the smell is one of God's gifts to this earth. It smells so heavenly. Start to get that mixed in, and then we are going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla, but of course we measure with the heart. We add 1 tablespoon of molasses, but if I'm being honest with you, I also measured that with the heart. We're just going to get this all combined. So now at this point, we're just going to let this sit and cool for about 5 minutes. While this is cooling, we can go ahead and combine our dry ingredients. Are you guys proud of me for using my new flea market find measuring cups? I have had them clean and out here and ready to use for a while now, but it's like so hard to break the habit of using my plastic ones that I've been using for so long. So for flour here, we have 1 cup and 3/4. And then we have 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And I normally say 1/4 teaspoon of salt, but I did use salted butter, so I'm only going to do a little sprinkle of salt. You definitely do want some salt with this recipe though. This skillet cookie is much, much better when you do include the salt. So let's go ahead and whisk our dry ingredients together here and then set them aside. At this point in the process, I'm gonna go ahead and preheat my oven to 350 degrees. Now we've been letting this sit for like 5-6 minutes. The reason that you want to do that is because the next ingredient that you're going to add is the egg, and you don't want to put the egg into a piping hot skillet because it will start to cook the egg, and we don't want that. Actually, I think it still feels really warm, so I'm going to give this just a few more minutes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mix in this egg here. And if you're going to do it while it's still kind of warm, you got to do it really fast. And I separated out the sugar and left some of the liquid butter left, and that's what I am mixing it into because the sugar is still really hot. So mixing it into the butter here, letting it warm up that way. And perfect, it didn't scramble, that's good. Now I can start mixing in some of the sugar. Yeah, just be really careful with that because you don't want to scramble your egg. Okay, and then once all your wet ingredients are combined, you can go ahead and add in your flour mixture, and I usually do 1/2 and 1/2. I'll add 1/2 and mix it in, and then I'll add in the other 1/2. All right, we've got this all mixed up here, and the very last thing is to add your mix-ins. I'm just going to be doing chocolate chips. I really wish I had peanut M&Ms because Tom really loves those. I should have thought ahead on that. That would have been a really good mix-in, but I'm just going to go ahead and add in my chocolate chips. You could do nuts, you could do so many different things. And I'm just going to mix these in. Now, you have to move quick with this because this is warm, and so these chocolate chips are going to start melting very quickly. They already are. I can see them melting. So you want to mix them in really quick. Just try to get them dispersed throughout here. Beautiful. And now, I'm just going to use my fingers to press this into the bottom of my skillet. All right, perfect. I wanted to make it look nice and even since this is more or less a gift, and it looks really good. Look at how great that looks. Ooh, this is gonna be awesome. So my oven's preheated to 350. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in there. I tell people 15 to 20 minutes. In the past, I think it's taken me like 18 minutes, but it really just depends on your oven and whatnot. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this in. I made these really delicious cinnamon streusel snickerdoodle cookies the other day, last night, and I have some leftover icing, so I think I am probably going to do a drizzle of icing just to use this up. And then I also have I could have sworn I had a lime green icing like thing that you can write with, and I am not finding it anywhere. So dang, I guess I'm not writing on it, but that's okay. The icing will look nice, and then I've got some rainbow sprinkles, and we'll just make it look fun and festive.
All right, friends, it is the morning of Tom's birthday, and we're going to get moving here, but I've got to be quiet because he's still sleeping, and I'd like to keep it that way. So here I've got some hot water from the stove, and I'm going to pour in half a cup into this measuring cup, and it is almost boiling, so it's pretty warm water. And then here I've got cold milk from the fridge that I'm also pouring half a cup into, and I thought it was going to be the perfect temperature. I've got 2 tablespoons of sugar that I'm adding to my bowl, and I'm going to put that warm liquid mixture into that and stir it around, get that sugar dissolved, and it'll be the perfect place to add our yeast, which is 2.5 teaspoons of active dry yeast. And then we're going to let that sit and let it become frothy. And while it's sitting, I'm showing you the cookie cake. This is what was left of it. It was very good. Tom enjoyed it. But the yeast, the liquid mixture was not warm enough, and so my yeast did not activate. So here what I'm doing, I've got a bigger bowl that I just put some boiling water into, and I'm setting my yeast bowl inside of that bowl to see if that will wake it up, and it worked. So that's a great little tip if you ever run into an issue where your mixture is not warm enough to wake up the yeast. So I'm adding 3 tablespoons of melted butter to that mixture. And I'm adding 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 egg, and 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I didn't want to make noise and get the mill going, so I just used all-purpose in these. And we're going to go ahead and get that mixed together. Having it inside of the larger bowl with the warm water did such a good job waking up the yeast that I figured let's just go ahead and leave it to do its rise. And that was a really good idea because as you can see here on the back of the stove, it rose really well and it rose really quickly. So now I'm adding some lard to my cast iron skillet. We're going to get that warming up, and then we're going to add normally cornmeal to a parchment paper lined baking sheet, but I'm out of cornmeal, so I used this corn flour and it worked just as well. Now this recipe says to use an English muffin ring. I don't think I own such a thing, so I used this round cookie cutter or biscuit cutter instead. And the concept worked out fine. The recipe said to use 1/3 a cup of the batter, but as you can see here, that was actually very difficult. It's a very sticky, dense batter, and it was difficult to get the right amount, and it was way too much batter. It made a very thick English muffin, which I mean, maybe that's fine if that's what you're looking for, but I wanted, I didn't want them to be quite this thick. So I had to wet my fingers, that's what you just saw me do, to even be able to handle this. And so I used a spoon to kind of press it around inside the ring. And then being in cast iron, I had to adjust the heat because it ended up getting very brown very quickly. So I did have to turn the heat down. But when you're making English muffins, you really just have to mess around with it the first couple. It's just like anything, pancakes, tortillas, you've got to get the hang of it when you first start. And then from there, it did get a lot easier. So this is still that first one, and you can see how massive it is. So we're going to get that out of there and move it to our prepared baking sheet. I tried doing one more using the biscuit gutter, and then after that I just I got a little bowl of water there on the stove to keep my fingers damp, and I just used my fingers to make English muffins in the pan without using the cookie cutter and just kind of like press them into a circle, and that worked fine. I think that the biscuit cutter ones looked a little nicer, but it really wasn't that big of a difference, and it wasn't worth the hassle. So in the background there, I've got my oven preheating to 350 degrees, and that's where we're putting these for 10 to 15 minutes. You want the internal temperature of your English muffins to be 205 degrees. I started by testing the bigger ones, and they were not temperature, but the little ones were. And we're moving on to the hollandaise sauce. So I had to half this recipe because I didn't have enough butter. So the actual measurements are you need 2 egg yolks, 2 tablespoons of lukewarm water, half a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, which I definitely just eyeballed, and 2 teaspoons of fresh lemon juice, which this is what I had, so that's what we're using. And we are just going to get that whisked together. The heat's still off. We're just combining those ingredients. And then we're going to add 1/2 cup or 8 tablespoons of butter. I didn't have that much butter, so here I'm putting 4 tablespoons, but for the full recipe, you do 8, which is a full stick of butter. And now we are turning the heat on, and we're going to let that butter start melting. And you are supposed to whisk this continuously, which I did not do. And so as you can see here, I needed to get those English muffins out. So this hollandaise sauce did not come together properly, and I think it's because of this right here. I needed to whisk that the whole time the heat was on. So when you make this, make sure you do that. Whisk it the whole time. It only takes a minute, maybe 2 minutes. And here I'm going to add some salt and a little bit of pepper. And you're supposed to add cayenne pepper. I didn't have any, so I used chili powder, but I just put in like the tiniest little bit, and it really actually did add a great flavor. And it looks like it came together really well, but it ended up separating, so I'm gonna have to figure that out.
Okay, we have to work quick here. Tom is awake. He is in the garage doing whatever guys do in the garage. And I have the English muffins done, I have the hollandaise sauce done, and so now we just have to poach our eggs. I have never poached an egg in my life, but I Googled it and it seems super doable, so we're going to give it a shot. So right now, my big pot, I still have my simmer pot stuff in there, and I'm not ready to be done with that yet, so I'm gonna do it in my little saucepan, but I think it's gonna be okay because you only need like 2 or 3 inches of water to poach eggs. I need 4, but I'm just going to do them in groups of 2 and 2 since I'm using such a small pot. So let's go ahead and give this a shot and see if we can pull it off.
Now here I've got some really, really great quality bacon from Sunny Cove Farm. This package of bacon was like $35. It was really expensive, and it is a treat. And it has really become a habit for me that if I cannot afford to source something well, I just don't eat it. And so bacon has left the rotation because I cannot afford that. But what better reason to use this pack than for Tom's birthday? And now we are going to try poaching some eggs. So you are supposed to slip those into boiling water, but you want the water to just simmer once they're in there. You don't want it to fully boil. And then I used a slotted spoon to check on them. I think they were in there for about 4 minutes. And then I removed them, and I needed 4 eggs. I did them in batches of 2 and 2, and I thought for my first time poaching eggs, they turned out really nice. So here's the final product. This quick video is all I got because I was so excited to give this to Tom and for us to eat, and it was so good.
You guys, oh my gosh, that was delicious. That was so good. I just got the one quick video of it. Tom and I devoured it. The hollandaise sauce didn't quite work out. It separated, the butter separated from everything else, and it was not creamy, but the flavor was still really, really good. It was my first time making it, so Tom and I we're fine when the presentation isn't quite right. With home-cooked food, it just happens that way sometimes. So I'll try again in the future. I think it's because I didn't whisk it consistently right in the beginning. You're supposed to whisk it consistently, and I stopped to get those English muffins out. I think that's probably what did it, but it was fine. It was still so tasty, just looked a little funny. All in all, it was a very, very good birthday breakfast for my honey, and I will definitely be making it again in the future. So thank you guys for hanging out with me while we were in the kitchen making some yummy stuff for my handsome hubby, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Have faith, my friends, and keep moving forward. Bye.